And welcome everybody to the Loons podcast, brought to you by Roughneck Scarves. My name is Tony. I'm here with Dave and David. Dave Stevens, David Sterling. I'm Tony Pervenanzi. We're coming to you today from Sterling's Bar in beautiful Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. This, of course, is kind of the second half of our podcast from Tuesday night. Tuesday afternoon, I should say, where we were in Atlanta before the game. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have kind of another short podcast after that game. And, of course, we had a big game last night against LAFC. So we wanted to get into that. We are back to drinking Minnesota beers. Well, actually, David, you're not. You're close enough, though. It's not Georgia beers anymore, Atlanta beers.
Correct.
They are Minnesota beers. Dave and I split the Key Lime Ghosts from Dangerous Man Brewing Company, and I like this stuff.
I do, yeah. I think this is the first time I've tried the actual Key Lime Ghost. I've definitely had Dangerous Man beers before. I've been to Dangerous Man. I love the spot. I know it's a spot we were talking about getting to. We'll see if that happens yet. But yeah, this for the first time trying this beer, I'm impressed.
It's good stuff. David, you got some New Glarus?
Yeah, I decided to partake in some Wisconsin beer that we can't get here in Minnesota.
There you go.
I know I picked some of that up when we came back from Madison. Now, is that their Spotted Cow or is that something else?
No, so this is Stone Soup. It's a log. I mean, it's a pretty standard lager. It's I think it's got a little bit of must be some bacterial stuff going on because there's maybe a little bit of a sourness to it, but it's definitely kind of a saison type, farmhouse.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Atlanta game, guys, because three of us were there. We got there. The atmosphere there, I will say this, I was impressed by the Atlanta fans. I saw a lot of stuff online about Atlanta fans and United fans kind of being very nice to each other.
Well, and I don't know if some of this so-called hatred that maybe I perceived hatred, that maybe it was kind of built up by, maybe that's more of a, Minnesota problem that we built it up. It could be built based off of envy, maybe, but there was it seems like there's a little bit of hostility, between the fan bases, or at least that's what I perceived. But that was not the case on the ground.
No,
Atlanta,
it was. I heard a lot of nice things from people who met up. I think they had a tailgate before the game.
They did,
and they had a really good time there. The nice thing, of course, was we were on opposite ends of the stadium, so there wasn't any kind of issues with us, being nasty to each other during the game. I don't think that would have happened anyways. The stadium down there reminds me a lot of U.S. Bank Stadium.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, that's the same. It's a football stadium.
It's a beautiful stadium.
It's a beautiful
brand
stadium.
New,
It
just
is.
a couple years old. Speaking of the stadium, so we should mention I know there were numbers floated out there before the game, but I think as all said and done, there was over 30,000 people in attendance. I don't think it got to 40. I think completely, if the lower and second 200 level was completely full, I think the capacity is about 42.
Yeah,
it didn't quite get to its sold out lower bowl capacity, but bottom line, there's 30,000 people. That was the most ever to witness a U.S. Open Cup final.
Yeah.
And, shout out to the Minnesota United supporters and fans that made the trip, because the numbers were, between 400 and 500.
Well, I think
estimated
the section was 450 plus,
and that doesn't count.
That doesn't
random
count whoever
people
was
that,
out.
Yeah. So I'll go with close to 500 on that.
Yeah, I think it probably was.
And it was amazing to see all of us down there cheering on this team. Of course, the game starts, boys, and
it starts.
It was flat.
It was flat. It
was what you expect from Minnesota United
on the road. Yeah.
I just as the half progressed, it didn't get any better.
No.
But there just wasn't any creativity, and I'm not even going to say it wasn't because Atlanta was significantly better.
No, I don't.
It was just we didn't
look
play.
Good. No.
There just was no activity in the midfield. In fact, the midfield was basically non-existent, which made the forwards and the entire attack non-existent. It was just kind of bleh.
I mean, to be fair, if we're talking about the first half in general, before we get into the details, I feel like, I mean, there was certainly some half chances. I mean, maybe some full-on chances. I know Boxall and Opara had some header opportunities that unfortunately went high or wide. They probably should have done better with those. But, as a whole, you're right. But, I mean, I'm not going to say that it was completely lacking. It was especially the second half of the first half, and as we moved on, it was an entertaining game. It kind of opened up. Yes, it was flat, but it wasn't a boring game. No. It was kind of a wide open game, I thought.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth. You know, I think that had a lot to do with really Atlanta's midfield wasn't, I don't think, up to what it usually is either.
Yeah,
and so there was a lot of giveaway. And we were able to at least attempt to move the ball forward. But it just wasn't, to me, it wasn't like we were doing anything. No. It was the fact that, honestly, I don't think Atlanta was playing to the level of which they could have played either.
And my point was, coming into this game, we need to go in early in this game and kind of put the gas on, get some early chances, maybe score a goal. And we'll get into this when we talk about last night's game, because we did exactly that. And that changed the whole game within the first 25 minutes.
Agreed.
In Atlanta, that's what should have happened, and it didn't happen. And so in that first half, we were kind of flat, and we weren't doing things properly, weren't getting passes out, all that type of stuff. I knew this game really was not in the cards for us, especially after the first goal by Atlanta.
And I maybe by that point, especially, I mean, again, I'm going to say that the game was entertaining. There was some big saves. There was chances for both teams. But yes, in the first 15 minutes of the game, maybe Atlanta did deserve to score because Minnesota came out flat-footed. They didn't look best. But to be fair, that first goal, it was actually credited as an own goal to Gasper.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
And I don't know. You can call it a couple different things. I'm going to call it a bit of a fluky goal. It's not a goal that you expect to be scored in that particular fashion. Unlucky, fluky, whatever you want to call it. Gasper had it deflected off his foot. It was clearly an own goal. There's no arguing that. Maybe you could say that Minone could have done better with that. I know Twellman was certainly critical of that after I went back and watched the game just yesterday, actually, but he was a bit critical of Minone, and maybe Minone would have said he could have done better, but boy, it was a tough one. It was in the worst of spots possible, right. And you want, like I said, nobody was expecting that ball to come up like it did.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, but bottom line, 11 minutes into the game, you're already down on the road.
Right, and that was, it was pretty reminiscent of
just
what we're used to from previous seasons. So it was a bit terrifying.
And maybe we jinxed Gasper because we talked to his aunt and uncle before the game.
Right, yeah.
That's right, we did.
We talked to his aunt and uncle before the game for a while. Maybe we jinxed them a little bit. I don't know.
But, we were honest with them about how, we've held his feet to the fire about his defending and his decision-making. So it's not like we were, pumping him up.
No, we weren't.
To really jinx him. Maybe he just decided to live up to our criticism.
We did. It's funny, we talked to him. We didn't go in there as, big fans of Chase Gasper. I think we went in there with, we like what he's been doing, but he's been a little bit aggressive. Yeah. I think his aunt and uncle actually agreed with us on that.
Yeah, and he is, as going into that game, actually, not that it was the Open Cup final, it doesn't account for that, but, I mean, he finally, his aggressiveness has caught up to him. He was at, one more yellow card, at least, going into LAFC, and he was due to be suspended. So we can talk about that later too. But the only thing I will say is I called it unlucky a couple times, but I think leading up to that first goal, again, Atlanta had pressure. I think it was was it Boxall and Gasper that kind of got crossed up on that one? They didn't. They let him get in. They let him run into some space. I think Gasper obviously recovered, well enough to unfortunately have his foot deflect the ball into an own goal. So
I mean, if anyone cares, we had Our first shot came in the 12th minute.
Oh.
I mean, our first shot came in the 12th minute.
Yeah.
We didn't have another one until the 19th.
Yeah.
Did you say the 12th minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there was a bit of run of... There was, like I was saying, there were some chances. Yeah, and there were some chances that Minnesota had early on, even after that first goal. So it wasn't like we were completely void of opportunities. And that game, still the game was kind of, even at that point, wide open and entertaining.
When you go down a goal on the road, it becomes gut check time for the road team. I mean, we're talking about soccer here. When you're down one goal on the road, that might as well be 2 goals on the road or 3 goals on the road. Right. I mean, it becomes very, you got to start making some plays here.
Yeah, and when you're talking about a team like Atlanta, the last thing you want to do is be the second team to score a goal.
Exactly.
So, I mean, the fact that we went down that fast, I'm just going to say it's not surprising that they went up 2-0 within, what was that, 10 minutes?
In a span of 6 minutes, basically, because it was in the 16th minute that Gonzalo Martinez scored. Yeah. And he got the assist off Moran, and I think that was probably the problem on that particular goal, having gone back and watched it again, watched the replay several times. It was a matter of, again, there was significant pressure on the back line, but it was a case of kind of Metnier allowing way too much space. And, I mean, he was within 20 to 18 yards. He was right on the corner, right in the corner of the box. And Metnier just gave him way too much space, and he was able to just a beautiful cross in, but it's something that, the talent on Atlanta, their team is not going to miss an opportunity.
Well, and something that's interesting, and we don't usually get into the stats like this too much, but MLS.com has their chalkboard, which is fantastic because that goal was the first Atlanta shot on target. Yeah. It was the first Atlanta shot.
Wow.
And then they had 3 more shots on goal that half, which to me it's just one of those things that we had no shots on goal the entire first half. Mm-hmm. Lots of off target. And it's one of those things where you have to say, efficiency-wise, we need to do better in that because I mean we've talked about this a lot where we've got 6 shots on goal in a game and we come out with 1 goal or no goals, and that's been, I don't know, it's like, what do we do in training?
I don't know, but
it's bizarre.
But again, if you come out flat like we did, what do you expect? And the fact that Atlanta, we got an own goal and Atlanta scored 1 more goal. So let's just say that really Atlanta only accounted for 1 goal there, okay? Right. And we came out that flat. The game was still, ours if we really wanted it.
I just have to laugh. So I was no wonder I kind of stumbled on Gonzalo Martinez because who the hell is that? Pity Martinez, of course. The Argentine from. So, yes. No wonder that sounded weird to me.
Yeah. So after we went down 2-0, myself, my dauber was down at that point.
Yeah, you disappeared.
I went out in the concourse. There was a spot right by where we sat where they had some bar seating up there, kind of like open area. That, yeah. And I just went up there and sulked and talked to some Atlanta fans, and that was that. Because at that point, I was so disappointed in the whole first half that I couldn't sit there and cheer with the fans anymore. I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
It definitely hurt. Down 2-0 so early on the road, it almost felt over. And that's why credit Minnesota United the rest of the game actually keeping themselves in the game mentally. And they managed to control a lot of the game going forward.
They did.
Yeah, just from a fan